show you the real face of Argentina and what it actually happens. So it will be an insight. I will be drinking mate, which is a very typical beverage from Argentina. You might know from Franco Colapinto, who introduced the mate in the Formula One. I am very proud of him. So we've got what we've got. This background isn't the prettiest, or the sound I might have isn't the best, but we're gonna do what we can, what it is in our hands, and happy with it. So I'm gonna repeat the speech of Javier Milei in the World Economic Forum in Buenos Aires yesterday, or the day before yesterday. But anyway, here we go. I hope you enjoy it. Good morning to all. And Thor, which is the dog newly introduced to the Casa Rosada. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the well-known businessmen and authorities of the World Economic Forum who have come to Buenos Aires for this meeting. I know that some of you have come very far to hear and see firsthand everything that Argentina has to offer you. Let me tell you that you will not return home disappointed, either because of the policies against the private sector or the lack of interest in encouraging foreign investment by previous administrations. It is not very common for our country to host this type of event where foreign direct investments is formed and encouraged. Please know that from the beginning to the end of our administration, we will advocate for this type of event to continue, just as we will work tirelessly for a country with a free and open economy for investments. I take this opportunity to say that although my first speech in Davos has gained some global notoriety, I am not here today to talk about the direction the world has taken, but rather I am here to tell you about the direction Argentina has taken since we took office. 10 months ago, almost 15 million Argentines decided to leave behind the recipes that impoverish our country for more than 100 years. Socialism, spoiler. To begin to apply the ideas of freedom, which are the only ones that guarantee growth and progress. I don't want to go into something that we've all heard many times, but the impoverishing model of the current state, which was implemented in Argentina for so many years, left us with a country in ruins, where more than half of Argentines are poor and with a GDP per capita that has not grown for almost 15 years. You're right, Thor, he says. He's saying not to offend the dogs by saying that the previous one were dogs, the previous administration. So, brief stop here to clarify. The dog was in the speech and he was barking. So he barked right there, and President Milei took his word to talk from the dog's point of view. Thor. Continue. When we took office, the regime of permanent deficit, unsustainable debt, and unbridled emission, which all our predecessors had maintained, had run its course, and we were heading to hyperinflation, In addition, in the social dimension, a caste system had been established that divided politicians and their friends from the rest of society, where a few privileged people won at the expense of all Argentines. Imagine how bad things had to be for society to elect the first libertarian president in history. Something that, under normal conditions of pressure and temperature, does not happen without a political party, governors, or mayors. That is something that could not have happened if it were not for the absolute economic, material, and moral failure of the caste model. So, a brief stop here to clarify. He speak about this random situation where the absolute economic, material, and moral failure of the caste model, he called the caste model all these unmoral politicians, which just made business with their fingers and not given to meritocracy his place. Very, very regular in Argentina for the past 100 years, of course. And I've seen it myself. I am from Neuquén, a province with a lot of petrol. I've seen it with my own eyes through my whole life. I am 32 years old and I am very, very used to that. And it is wrong. Everyone here just copes with it. It's annoying. I'm gonna continue. But today I am not here to talk about what others did, but about what we are doing and will continue to do. We took over the government and decided to go back to basics. We are correcting the macroeconomic order, whatever the cost, so that the Argentines can live without inflation for the first time in decades. And we are returning to the state its primary function, which is the defense of life, liberty, and property of individuals, liberty and property of individuals, so that the private sector can generate wealth on its own. In other words, we are implementing the same ideas that lift 90% of the world's population out of poverty over the last 300 years. Capitalism, obviously. It will not be easy because we have the challenge of rebuilding the political, legal, institutional, productive, and commercial reputation of a country that has been punished by unscrupulous and brutal politicians for too long. That is why, precisely, because we started from the underworld, we have to aspire to the highest. And that is why the compass of this regime change points to a very clear long-term objective: to be the freest country in the world. In this line, we are building a new Argentina on three fundamental pillars: an orderly macroeconomy, anchored in fiscal balance, an effort titanic to deregulate the entire Argentine economy that we have called the Great War Against Argentine Costs, where we have here our colossal minister and world example, who is Federico Sturzenegger, and in third place, the recovery of the rule of law and compliance with the law, where the wonderful Minister Bullrich every day is in charge of putting security issues in order. During the campaign, we already warned about the importance of fiscal balance in our administration when we took office on December 10, 2023, we reaffirmed our commitment, knowing that fiscal balance is the basis of economic stability and that a stable, predictable economy is attractive for investments and consumers. In these 10 months of government, we achieved the first sustained fiscal surplus free of default in the last 123 years in Argentina. In an unprecedented change of direction throughout the length and breadth of the planet. The economists who told us that it was impossible, that we did not have an economy plan, spent the last 10 months agitating for the return of the deficit to destabilize us, and we did not give them the pleasure. The result of this effort by all Argentines is that the value of our bonds has doubled, and we have lowered the country risk from 3,000 points to less than 1,100 points. And we will continue to lower it, and we will achieve sooner or later becoming an emerging country in terms of credit rating again. And I am strongly committed to ensuring that at some point in our administration we can become investment grade. Argentina is worth something again because it has a government that, for the first time in decades, is doing what no one wanted to do, and that prefers to tell uncomfortable truths rather than comfortable lies. That is true. It is not coincidence. Actually, that is the main reason why Milei has been chosen. It is no coincidence that we have new investments announcements every day, and that the RIGI announcements, which is a special investment regime that we have sanctioned, are already around $15 billion. Hello, welcome, $15 billion to Argentina. While the rest of the leadership has dedicated itself to putting shackles on individual freedoms with disastrous results, we have come to put a shackle on it. Yes, a shackle. A shackle on the state once and for all. That is, a shackle on the states. We are going to put the shackle on the states. And it is precisely the drastic reduction in public spending that we are carrying out that will allow us to return in tax cuts to the private sector, the product that the state stole from it. Just this Monday, we dissolved the Federal Administration of Public Revenue. I did a video about that. An overcrowded state agency that was used to persecute the private sector. And we created a new tax entity by cutting 34% of its structure. That is, we reduce spending by cutting who collects taxes. Isn't that amazing? That just came out yesterday, I think so. I also did a video about that. Obviously, only mention it. Returning to the idea of putting a clamp on the state. That is why we are fighting our own battle of Thermopylae every day, with 6 senators, 39 deputies, and the voice of millions of Argentines who supports us in the streets and on social media against the great apparatus of the state party. That is so true. Noblesse oblige, I would also like to thank the sector of the political leadership, which does not seek to steal votes, but rather to seek a real change for the country of its children, and supports us by upholding our vetoes and our reforms to guarantee fiscal balance and economic growth. Cheers to that. I'm gonna have a mate. So all this is happening in Argentina. It's amazing. It's been 10 months. It felt like 3 years, bro. Amazing. We are in a great time in Argentina. I will continue. There is another sector of the political leadership, a sector that only wants nothing to change, a sector that wants to continue protecting its privileges at the expense of all Argentines. This opposition said we were living in January. Obviously, these are words from Javier Milei. When he say we were living in January, he's referring that the government will live, he and his government will live in January. Yes, this is very wrong, right? How do you say, I'm gonna look for this word because I don't wanna make a mistake here. Cup plotter of the government, you know. So these people who were cup plotter, who are cup plotter, start saying that the government will end in January. Okay, this was wrong, and they continue to do this. Surely he says something about this. So here we go again. This opposition said we were living in January. It said we were living during Holy Week. It said we were living in June, and now they don't know where to hide because the chainsaw is still more active than ever. Holy chainsaw. Secondly, we are carrying out the most ambitious structural reform plan in history to remove the state's boots from the necks of those who produce, those who trade, and those who work to reduce the cost of economic activity in all its dimensions. We have called this initiative the war against Argentine costs. All so here we go. Every day, our Ministry of Deregulation removes some obstacle or deactivates a job as if it were working in a bomb squad. Making a quick count, we have already eliminated bureaucratic obstacles for the import and production of steel, aluminum, construction materials, plastic, synthetic insulation. In addition, we have simplified export procedures, among which we highlight having reduced the delay in apostille procedures from 30 days to 1. I have a friend that is exporting at this moment, so I'm very proud of him. Big shout out to my friend, mon ami, mi amigo Pato, from Buenos Aires. He's selling t-shirts and he has a store. I'm gonna recommend that later. So we have eliminated all discretionary controls for imports, among which was the nefarious CIRA system, which only exists as a mechanism for embezzling the states. That is wrong of me, that embezzling. We will hear the word probably from, yeah. Embezzling. Because I am Argentinian, I don't know all the words and pronunciation. So I'm sorry about my English, but I do what I can. So, which only exists as a mechanism for embezzling the states. And we still have hundreds of thousands of obstacles to dismantle. We are also reducing labor costs, allowing more people to enter the system and thus project personal growth for the first time in their lives. At the same time, we are lowering the tariff cost on which the disastrous import substitution system was based, which at the cost of benefiting a handful of privileged people punish society as a whole with goods and services of lower quality at a higher price. For example, if we talk about transport, a car, it costs 6 times more than in the United States and is a quarter of the quality that you may find around the world. So it's incredible. You pay six times more and you get a quarter of the quality. Can you imagine that? That is Argentina. It's so annoying to go out to travel the world and to realize about this. Anyway, continue. The last of these 3 points I mentioned, and not for that reason the least important, is the restoration of the rule of law in Argentina. I say restoration because despite what the fetishists of democratic rituals says, the rule of law has not existed in Argentina for decades. That is also true. The rule of law is a concept based on the fundamental idea that all citizens have inalienable natural rights, among which are the right to life, liberty, and property. Under that premise, the function of the rule of law throughout history has been to restrict the power of the monarch so that he cannot override the natural rights of men. Basics. Nobody will go against this. Only elite. I think it goes without saying that Argentina, and you know this better than many, for around 100 years, the state has systematically violated these natural rights in countless ways. Under the veneer of democracy, the worst atrocities have been committed in our country. Because far from defending the rule of law, what has prevailed in Argentina is the reason of the state. This is to say, the needs of the states have been above the natural rights of citizens. From the ruling of the Supreme Court of Justice, which endorsed the asymmetrical pacification in 2004, to the tax abuses of bank collections and withholdings made by the provinces. Examples of violation of fundamental rights have been commonplace throughout our history. The right to life, liberty, and property has been systematically violated both for Argentines and for foreigners who have decided to come and invest here. You want more? In short, if the political caste needed to violate rights in order for the system to remain in place, status quo, the justice system has endorsed it, under the doctrine that there is nothing more important than the survival of the state, and that all the rights of citizens are subject to that. While they advocate for the famous welfare state, they were doing nothing other than fighting for the welfare of the state. We are the first government in decades to put the rights of citizens above the needs of the states. And we are the first government in decades too that is withdrawing the state from the private sphere, from the citizens, to return to living in a fully fledged state of law. That is defending the institutions, that is defending the republic, that is defending the citizens. Returning to our management, our hypothesis was proven and continues to be proven day by day, unless than a year, we have already reached the lowest inflation rates in the last 4 years, with prices in different sectors that have not changed for months. In other words, we have carried out the largest adjustment in the history of humanity, and we have not lost an iota of social support. Surely it's a quota. We have not lost a quota of social support, which is true. I think the polls are 53% in favor of Javier Milei, even 10 months after this has started, 10 December, right? The retraction of the treasury during these months has already returned 50 points of GDP to the private sector in the form of savings. Continuing on this path of adjustment is what we need. It allowed us to finance private investments, which is what generates genuine growth, because the private sector is based on voluntary relationships to grow, and no one voluntarily agrees to what is not convenient for them. On top of everything, we carried out this adjustment without touching social spending. What's more, we doubled in real terms direct benefits such as the universal child allowance and the food card, and we took power away from the slave-driven picketers, because we understand that it is human capital that will make this nation great again. Isn't that a double win-win, eh? They took power away from the picketers who were administrating these plans, like the FISU in Argentina. There are big accounts given to one person that it's supposed to administrate it to the people. It is insane. It's insane. This is taxpayers' money. It's madness here. There we go. This, together with the excellent work of Dr. Patricia Bullrich, who heads our nation's security, it's allowing us to restore public order at great speed, ending the scourge of pickets in just a few months. We have been pacified. We have even pacified Rosario, a city besieged by drug trafficking, in record time. The effects of the birthday are noticeable. Sorry, but life is like that. I think he refers to his own birthday, which was yesterday. The 21, I think so. Not yesterday, the 21. With the help of the ley bases and DNU 70/23, we have carried out the largest structural reform in history, which was 8 times larger than the Menem reform. This allowed us to jump almost 90 places in the ranking of economic freedom, and we will not stop until we are the freest country in the world, which is why we still have 3,200 reforms in the pipeline. Sweet though. We are doing our homework at the place that reality allows us. We know that regaining trust is not something that happens overnight. It is not for nothing that the saying goes that trust goes up by stairs and down by elevator. Argentina has been breaking its word for 100 years, and the world has been burning itself with milk for 100 years. It is no coincidence that the Argentine population elected as president a guy who 3 years ago was in the private sector. He is talking about himself. It is because they know that in the private sector, if your word is not worth anything, you will get nowhere. Whereas in politics, the less word you have, the higher you rise in the ranks. Very typical in Argentina. I have no words for this. I don't know if I ever speak about this in English, but this is disgusting. As I was saying, with the macro stability achieved after decades and the deregulation and economic opening efforts, carried out through the lay bases and other instruments, we are generating a perfect storm in conditions for any investments. Let me focus on some sectors in particular. Argentina has soil blessed with abundant and varied natural resources. Let us look at the energy sector. Vaca Muerta is an extraordinary source of resources, the second largest shale oil reserve in the world, second, which can at least supply Argentine demand for the next 150 years. So I live in Neuquén, and this zone called Vaca Muerta, which is dead cow, translated, is in Neuquén, is in the place where I live. So this is very true though. This place should be something like Vancouver with regalies, but it's not, because they have stolen the money always. And royalties, sorry. It should be Vancouver with the royalties, but has never been because it's not developed. They have developed in this 100 years 3% of industry here, so it hasn't really developed yet. It's a shame. I guess it will now. So continuing, the development of this has managed to reverse our historic energy deficit of almost $7 billion 10 years ago to a surplus of $4 billion in the first half of this year. Isn't that amazing? The energy deficit is practically a thing of the past, and we still have a lot of room to grow. Thanks to the lay bases, we managed to modify the old hydrocarbon and gas laws so that, among other things, exporting becomes easier and faster. Let's look at mining. It is estimated that the Andes Mountains have 40% of the world's copper reserves. Without going any further, Chile exports $50 billion a year in copper. Do you think that God only blessed that side of the Andes, and that on this side magically there is nothing? So we have enormous mining potential in copper yet to be exploited. We also have the third largest lithium reserve in the world, with a dozen projects either already producing or in the exploration stage, as well as silver and gold mines. To this, we must add the development of the primary sectors, in which Argentina is already a spearhead, but whose potential was crushed for decades by the extractive regime, which used them as a source of foreign currency to finance crony capitalism. I am referring, of course, to the agricultural and agro-industrial sector. Our countryside produces food for 500 million people. But agriculture we are 47 million 47 million people in Argentina. So the population of Argentina is 47 million. And we produce food for 500 million people. So we've got over 10 times what we need, but they're still hungry in Argentina. Can you see that? Previous administrations haven't managed this properly. But agriculture is not only about livestock, soybeans, corn, and wheat. It is also about their byproducts. It is also about productive technology, both in genetics and machinery, in which Argentina is a leader. And it is also about other sectors in which we are already protagonists, such as peanuts in Cordoba or lemons in Tucumán, and others that still are a potential, that are still a potential. Do you know how much Chile exports in cherries? Do you know? 50 times more than Argentina, not 5, 50 times more. Do you know how much Chile exports in salmon per year? $6 billion. Us? Fine, thank you. Imagine all that potential there is. All the potential there is. And finally, the innovation and technology sector. The Argentine people are privileged in terms of human capital because almost 100 years of collectivism taught us something. We Argentines have the ability to extract water from the stones and to undertake even in the worst condition. Or thus it seems a coincidence that despite being the country in the region with the lowest foreign investment in the last 15 years, we are at the same time the one with the most unicorns per capita. Imagine what the technology sector can achieve, especially under stable macroeconomic conditions and without the state's boots on its neck. As I have said on other occasions, there is no force of nature greater than an Argentinian waiting to get ahead. This is why we want to make Argentina an artificial intelligence hub. Because we have cheap energy in cold places and with large extensions of land to develop and supply the computing centers, and because we have something that will be precious in the coming decades: faith and optimism in technological development, faith in entrepreneurs and the regulatory freedom that correspond to that faith, in a world in which the private sector and, above all, the technology sector are increasingly restricted. To conclude, before winning the elections, we knew that Argentina is a country where everything is yet to be done. And since we took office on December 10th of last year, we began to transform this decadent present that was left to us into a future of prosperity for each of the individuals who inhabit this land. The model of freedom that we are applying is not exclusive to Argentines. It is also an example for the rest of the country in the region, which, to a greater or lesser extent, have also been punished by the same miserable policies of 21st century socialism. Opening up to the world, generating investments opportunity, and allowing those who must generate wealth, that is, you, the private sector, to do so without being suffocated by the voice of the state. That is the example that we want to set. Your cooperation is fundamental in this new chapter that we are writing. We invite you to retake the leading role that the state unjustly stole from you for so long. Well, about to be done. Once again, I thank you for the trust and interest in making our country your strategic partner. Milei said to the private sector in the World Economic Forum. Our commitment is to make Argentina the freest country in the world for ourselves, for our children, and for all the men of the world who decide to live in Argentina's soil. Argentina will be free. Argentina will be great again. Thank you so much. Long live freedom, damn it. Carajo. Well, that was all. That was the speech at the World Economic Forum of, from Milei, or by Milei. I hope you like it. This is a brief lecture to show you what is happening in Argentina and what is coming to share with the world, because we are opening up. Some of us have already done it a few years ago, as many, or as always had happened with many people. But to translate this, the regulars like me are opening up to the world, so the whole population gets in contact with the rest of the world. Argentina is a country that does not speak English. Like, I am a rare person here speaking like this. There is many who understands a little bit of English, but they do not express themselves as deep. So this is an invitation for everyone to comment, to open to the world, from Argentina, of course, and to tell the rest of the world what is happening here. I'm leaving. Thank you for everything. See you next time.